So, you want to play a game? I'm guessing that game is set a watch. Otherwise, I don't know what the hell you're doing here. But if that's the case, you're in the right place, because we're going to review this. So let me give you some details on how the game works, and then we can dive into my thoughts on it. So first of all, this is our game board. This is camp, where one of your players will sit out of combat and help tend to camp, keep what's called the campfire going, which helps with how many enemies you can see while they're assaulting camp. You essentially have a stream of enemies based on your next location card here. You have 7 enemies. And based on that, how bright your campfire is how many enemies you will see in line. How the game works is you have 4 character sheets, no matter the number of players, and one of them will always sit at camp for that round. And there are various actions they can take there. The most standard being chopping firewood, but then you also have some abilities to heal, equip different ability cards, check the map, which is looking at future potential location cards, and it gives you the ability to swap them if you wish, which can be very useful. And then you also have the Horde here, which is a collection of enemies that you either failed to defeat or they were just added to the Horde via another card. For example, the Acolyte is a very frustrating enemy that reveals or sends an enemy into the Horde. And how enemies otherwise get added into the Horde is that stream of enemies that you're facing. For this example, it would be 7. If you fail to kill any of them, they get added to the Horde. And now, how the way combat works is every round you roll dice based on your character card. For example, the Ranger uses these 8-sided dice. So you roll 3 of them, and then based on your die roll, you debate as a team to decide who goes to camp, and then the other 3 fight the enemies, the stream of enemies. You use the dice to either do direct damage, i.e. 7 damage, or you could use a character's ability with the dice. Because dice operate as both damage tokens and also as action points. So you have that option of juggling them. So if this was a rolled 1, it still has a lot of value as an action dice. Some of the abilities are incredibly powerful. And the goal here is to survive a set number of rounds, which is essentially new locations. And then how it works is at the final location, you will fight a set number of enemies in addition to every single enemy in the Horde. So this game can get very difficult very quickly. Something important to keep in mind, you have what are called summon cards. These are what sets your difficulty. How these operate is they just get shuffled into your creature deck. And then every time you draw one, you have to deal with what are called unhalloweds. These guys are a pain. Cards that have very difficult abilities and make clearing your stream of enemies even more challenging. And another important note is these abilities at the bottom of the card here. We have reveal and we have first position. They are dispersed throughout many of the enemy cards. And how it works, you have your set line of sight based on your firewood. And every time you kill an enemy and a new one shifts in, you get to see that enemy. that is the reveal aspect. So as soon as that card is flipped over, the ability triggers and you have to deal with that. And then in addition to that, there's also a first position ability where as soon as that enemy shifts into the first slot, you then have to deal with that as well. So you end up in this interesting dynamic where you have to decide when to kill enemies so that they don't hit certain positions and do even more damage to you. Now, that is generally how it functions. I did not cover every detail. Something that needs to be mentioned is this game can either be really easy. Okay, really easy is an extreme, but sometimes you feel very powerful compared to others. I will say these summon cards, there are 4 of them. This is how you decide your difficulty. So far, I've only successfully played with 1. So the one time we attempted to do 2, we got pretty much wrecked in the first round. This game can be very unforgiving because some enemy abilities really just make things incredibly difficult when they pair together. So, for me, this game is a ton of fun. I love the co-op aspect, and since you roll your dice at the start of your turn, and you all get to just have this awesome tactical discussion and just really figure out what is the best path forward. And it leads to some really creative solutions because the abilities have a lot of cool effects too. So I would highly recommend trying this out, but I will warn you that sometimes you just die. You can be doing really well for multiple rounds in a row, and then all of a sudden you just get nailed. And the way the game works is your abilities start face up, and then whenever you take damage, which is an enemy getting through, i.e. you're not able to kill it in that round, you have to exhaust an ability. Along with every time you draw a summon card, you have to exhaust an ability. And if there's ever a point where all of your players are exhausted, then you lose. And the other aspect of that is when an ability is exhausted, you can't use it until you heal it, which removes one of your abilities and just makes it even harder. So things can spiral out of control really fast and get very difficult. For me, overall, great game. Highly, highly recommend giving it a shot. But be prepared. Sometimes you're just going to lose, and there's not going to be much you can do about it. That's just it. It really comes down to the die roll, the order of enemies that you draw, and it's sometimes that just happens. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I hope it helped make a decision for you on whether you want to give it a try or not. But overall, Set a Watch, great game. Great game. I hope you liked this. If you did, please give it a like, subscribe. I plan on coming out with a lot more board game content. If you have any ideas for other games that you would like to see, let me know. And also, let me know your thoughts on Set a Watch. I am curious to see if you guys have had similar experiences with the difficulty of this game. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next video.